You've seen the postcards, the pristine slopes, the billion-dollar resorts, the snow-dusted main streets, that cozy fireplace glowing inside a multi-million-dollar mountain home. It's the ultimate escape, the supposed pinnacle of the American dream, the fantasy sold to millions of people who'd never even set foot in the state. That dream is now cratering in real time. For the first time in over a decade, the Colorado high country is in total financial freefall. The pandemic-era Zoomtown boom coastal elites brawling over log cabins, bidding wars breaking out over glorified sheds with mountain views is over. And the hangover is brutal. This isn't a soft correction or a gentle cooling. It's a full-blown real estate disaster unfolding in slow motion. Today, we're driving through the 10 mountain towns, where the market is collapsing hardest, counted down, and completely reshuffled from what you'd expect. Here's the first pattern interrupt. The towns you'd assume are safest, the biggest names. The most famous zip codes are actually falling the hardest, while the sleepy towns nobody talks about are quietly holding steadier than anyone predicted. Same way again. Number 10, Silverthorne. You've passed this town on the way to Keystone, home to the massive outlet mall. It was pitched as the affordable alternative, and now it's ground zero for a catastrophic overbuild. Pandemic cheap money sent developers into a frenzy, and the Summit County Association of Realtors reports new construction inventory up a jaw, dropping 145% year over year. Zillow shows listings sitting an agonizing 128 days on average, triple what it was 2 years back. Here's the twist. Over 45% of active listings have taken major price cuts, often in $50,000 chunks, yet buyers still aren't biting. New short-term rental restrictions gutted investor cash flow too. AirDNA shows future bookings in non-exempt zones down by half. The gap is brutal. The median local income supports a $400,000 mortgage, but the median home price sits near $900,000. Census data confirms a population decline for the first time in 2 decades. Silverthorne is a textbook collapse of overbuilding meeting, evaporating demand, a rush scene playing out in slow motion, and the recent buyers left holding negative equity are only starting to realize how deep the hole goes. Local lenders report a growing number of these owners quietly asking about short sales, something almost nobody discussed here just 2 years ago when every new phase sold out within days of breaking ground. Contractors who once had 2-year waiting lists for new projects are now bidding against each other just to land any work at all, a complete reversal from the frenzy of 2021 and 2022. Even the outlet mall that anchors the town's identity has reported softer foot traffic. One more small sign that the entire local economy is cooling in step with housing. Realtors describe entire cul-de-sacs of new construction sitting dark at night, an eerie visual that longtime residents say they've genuinely never seen here before. Number 9, Crested Butte. This isn't a town, it's a postcard, protected and historic. But behind the beauty sits a market in total denial. For years, this felt like the anti-veil, authentic and unspoiled, until billionaires discovered it and pushed the median home price past $2 million. Now those same trophy homes are sitting and sitting. The local Realtors Association reports total dollar sales volume collapsing 60%, with sales over $3 million down a staggering 80%. Zillow shows average days on market exploding to 210. That's not a typo. That's 6 to 7 months minimum. Here's the pattern interrupt worth remembering. The more untouchable a mountain brand feels, the harder its fall tends to be once the wealthy buyers vanish. Redfin shows nearly half of all listings have taken a price cut. A 2-year short-term rental moratorium has frozen the market further, and insurance premiums are exploding. One local broker quoted an annual policy of $70,000 on a $4 million home. This market ran on the greater fool theory, and Crested Butte has officially run out of fools. Brokers we spoke with admit privately that even well-priced listings are getting almost no serious walkthroughs. Only casual lookers treating open houses like a scenic detour on their way somewhere else entirely. One agent described showing a $6 million property to exactly two interested parties in 4 months, a pace that would have been unthinkable during the frenzy of 2021. What was once marketed as timeless and immune to trends is now openly discussed among locals as simply overpriced for the moment we're actually in. Several homes originally listed near their 2022 peak have already been relisted twice at lower prices, and still nobody's calling. Number 8. Pagosa Springs. Near the New Mexico border, Pagosa Springs always felt more relaxed, more old Colorado. That relaxed vibe has curdled into a market frozen in outright fear. Investors flooded in chasing short-term rental income, pricing out locals entirely until the town council slammed the brakes with a strict cap on new rental licenses. AirDNA shows future booking calendars down a stunning 40% since. The Archuleta County Realtors report inventory over $1 million, up 95%. Year over year, the exact homes investors bought are now sitting unsold. Zillow shows average days on market ballooned to 130, more than triple 2 years ago, and Redfin shows 1 in 3 listings has taken a price cut in just the last month. But here's the real disaster. The Colorado Department of Labor says local median income only supports a $350,000 home, while median listing prices still sit above $700,000 even after the cuts. There are no investors left, and locals simply cannot afford to buy a market with genuinely no buyers left at all. Even the town's famous hot springs, once a magnet drawing visitors year-round, aren't enough to convince anyone that the current asking prices reflect anything close to reality. Former investors are now dumping properties at whatever price clears, having realized the guaranteed income they were promised by rental management companies was never actually guaranteed at all. Long-term locals who stuck it out through the boom now find themselves in the strange position of finally being able to afford homes that priced them out just 3 years ago. Number 7. Edwards, you've probably never heard of it. And that's exactly the point. This is where the teachers, firefighters, and hotel staff who run Vail and Beaver Creek actually live, and the community is quietly disintegrating. During the pandemic, wealthy buyers didn't just buy in Vail, they bought Edwards too, pricing out the entire workforce that keeps the resort economy running. The county's job board now lists over 3,000 open positions, not from growth, but from a total absence of workers who can find housing. Local schools report being short 70 teachers for the same reason. Here's the twist nobody saw coming. This is a real estate disaster, running in reverse. Prices stay sky high, while the community underneath simply vanishes. Sales of homes under $1 million, the locals market, are down 60% because that market barely exists anymore. Meanwhile, Zillow shows inventory of homes over $2 million, up 100%, sitting empty most of the year. When the workforce disappears, the wealthy eventually stop coming too, and Edwards is the canary proving it. Restaurant owners describe cutting hours simply because there's no staff left to open at all, regardless of how many reservations come in from the resorts up the valley. Some employers have started offering signing bonuses just for applicants willing to commute 2 hours each way, a cost most small local businesses simply cannot sustain for long. Resort executives up the valley are quietly acknowledging that the labor shortage, not interest rates, may end up being the bigger long-term threat to the entire regional economy. Housing advocates warn that without dramatic policy changes, Edwards' current crisis will simply repeat itself in every other resort feeder town across the state within a few years. Number 6. Durango. This is a real city with a college and a year-round economy, which makes its crash far more alarming. It proves the rot isn't just about tourism. The Durango area realtors report total sales volume collapsed 52% compared to 2 years ago, not prices, actual transactions. The market is frozen because sellers are clinging to 2.5% mortgage rates and simply refusing to sell. But builders can't wait. And county data shows a backlog of new luxury townhomes with zero pre-sales, forcing developers to offer $50,000 in closing costs just to move units. Here's the pattern interrupt. A hidden price drop, disguised as an incentive, is still a price drop. Census data shows population growth flatlining for the first time in 30 years as young families leave outright. A local economic report found renting a two-bedroom apartment now requires a $90,000 income, while the median household earns just $72,000. High rates have scared off cash buyers, too, leaving a stalemate where sellers, not panicked crowds, will eventually have to blink first. Some agents describe it as the strangest kind of downturn they've ever worked through. No dramatic auctions, no visible panic, just a market that has quietly gone silent while everyone waits the other side out. Meanwhile, college students and young professionals are increasingly choosing to leave town altogether rather than compete for the handful of units that do come available each month. Local employers, from the hospital to the school district, say recruitment has become dramatically harder simply because there's nowhere affordable left to actually put new hires. Number 5. Vail. The name synonymous with world-class skiing, invented as the perfect alpine paradise, was for 50 years the safest real estate bet on Earth. Not anymore. Average monthly hoe fees in Vail Village now exceed $2,000. That's $24,000 a year before mortgage or taxes. The Vail Board of Realtors shows total transactions plummeting 70% from peak. Here's the twist. Buyers are realizing that same money buys something brand new in Jackson Hole or Big Sky, while Vail's average condo dates to 1984 and demands a $500,000 renovation on top of the purchase price. Redfin shows median days on market at 186 full months, with average price cuts of 12%, a $600, 000 haircut on a $5 million condo. The town's own budget faces a $20 million shortfall as sales tax revenue craters. Vail isn't just facing a real estate slump, it's facing an identity crisis, treated by buyers as an aging relic rather than the icon it once was. Younger, wealthy buyers increasingly see it the way people once saw a legacy brand that stopped innovating, respected historically, but no longer where anyone actually wants to spend their money. Longtime locals joke bitterly that Vail is turning into a museum of a boom that already ended somewhere else first. Even the resort's own lift ticket revenue has started softening as day trippers replace the multi-week visitors who once filled the village's condos and restaurants all winter long. Number 4. Breckenridge. This historic mining town welcomes over 3 million visitors a year and is now teetering on genuine financial calamity. Breckenridge became too expensive, too crowded, and too regulated, and the wave that lifted it is now crashing down hard. A strict anti-short-term rental ordinance instantly vaporized 30% of property values, according to Summit County Realtors. AirDNA confirms revenue for restricted zone rental operators down 70%, triggering panicked selling from overleveraged investors. Here's the pattern interrupt. Nobody is buying what everyone is desperately selling. Zillow shows inventory up 90% year over year, real, empty homes, not phantom listings. A local title company shows transactions falling for 6 straight quarters. Even more shocking, the Main Street Business Alliance counts 45 empty storefronts, the highest vacancy in town history. The median home price still sits above $1.5 million, but the sale-to-list ratio has fallen to 92%, meaning homes sell for 8% below already slashed asking prices. Breckenridge is a theme park in winter and a ghost town the rest of the year. Local business owners describe entire blocks that used to have a wait list for retail space now sitting dark, with landlords quietly slashing lease rates just to keep anything open at all downtown. Even the ski resort's own visitor numbers, still strong on paper, haven't translated into the spending or the housing demand this town was quietly built to expect forever. Longtime shop owners now describe the off-season as feeling less like a lull and more like a permanent new normal they never planned around. Number 3. Steamboat Springs. Once a real ranching community with a rodeo and a high school football team, Steamboat sold its soul to luxury and is now paying dearly for it. Median home prices doubled between 2019 and 2023, while local wages rose just 8%. according to the Yampa Valley Economic Development Council. School enrollment dropped 10% last year as families fled outright. The local hospital declared a staffing crisis because workers literally cannot afford to live where they work. Here's the twist. This collapse is bifurcated multi-million-dollar ranch homes sit unsold while aging 1980s condos race to the bottom under one of the nation's highest short-term rental taxes. Condo inventory is up over 120%, with prices down 25% from peak units bought for $900,000 2 years ago now struggle to fetch $650,000. Single-family sales volume is down 40%. The entire middle of the market has vanished because the middle class that once lived here has vanished right along with it. Longtime residents describe a town that increasingly feels split in two, a handful of untouched luxury enclaves surrounded by empty storefronts and shrinking classrooms that used to be full. Teachers and nurses who grew up in Steamboat are now the ones being priced out of the town that once depended entirely on them. Local officials have floated workforce housing proposals for years, but none have moved fast enough to keep pace with just how quickly the affordability gap has widened. Some describe it as watching a slow-motion exodus, one moving van and one empty classroom seat at a time. Number 2, Telluride. Tucked into a box canyon so beautiful it barely feels real, Telluride is where billionaires play at being ski bums. Its ultra-luxury market is now imploding from the top down. Sales over $5 million are down a brutal 85% as tech and oil money that fueled the boom dries up completely. Average days on market now approaches 300, nearly a full year, to sell a home, while inventory between $5 and $10 million is up 150%. Here's the pattern interrupt. Even a gallon of milk here costs $12. And the town is running out of workers to bus in from towns 2 hours away. Median age has jumped 6 years in a decade as the town ages into a part-time playground. Insurers, including State Farm and Allstate, have frozen new policies entirely due to extreme wildfire exposure, and you cannot get a mortgage on a home you cannot insure. Telluride is a perfect museum now, and the exhibits inside are quietly starting to panic. Even owners who insist they'll never sell are privately calling brokers to ask what their multi-million-dollar homes might actually fetch if they truly had to list this year. Some longtime part-time residents are quietly relocating entirely to less isolated resort towns where basic services haven't become quite this scarce. Even the festival crowds that made Telluride famous worldwide haven't been enough to offset a workforce shortage now touching everything from restaurants to the ski patrol itself. Number 1. Aspen. We had to end here. This isn't just a town, it's a global brand, the 1% of the 1%, and it is unquestionably the most catastrophic real estate collapse in Colorado. For decades, the motto was the price never goes down. That motto is now a punchline. Median single-family home prices have plunged 32% from peak homes once valued at $40 million, now selling near $28 million. Total sales volume is down over 65% as private jets divert elsewhere and remote work CEOs get summoned back to the office. Here's the final pattern interrupt. The most recession-proof real estate market in America just posted its worst numbers in history. Active listings are up 210%, with average days on market stretching to 275. The commercial tax base has evaporated alongside it. Luxury retail and gallery sales are down 50%. Census data confirms over 60% of Aspen homes sit vacant more than 10 months a year. Aspen was built on fantasy, and the fantasy has finally ended. If the single most bulletproof real estate brand in America can post numbers this brutal, it's worth asking whether any mountain market anywhere was ever truly immune to gravity in the first place. Local officials are already bracing for a multi-year budget crunch as the tax base tied to luxury transactions continues shrinking with no clear bottom yet in sight. For a town that spent decades insisting it was different from everywhere else, the numbers this year suggest it was simply the last domino left standing. If Aspen can fall this hard, The entire premise that mountain real estate only climbs has effectively been disproven in front of everyone watching. That's the full road trip from the investor panic gripping Silverthorne to the hollowed-out workforce in Edwards, to the billionaire bubble finally bursting in Aspen. The story repeats at every altitude. Cheap money and pandemic migration built a dream that local wages, insurance markets, and basic affordability simply couldn't sustain long-term. These towns aren't correcting, they're in freefall, and the data backs it up at every single stop on this list. This is a warning for anyone still eyeing a purchase at these prices, and a harsh reality check for everyone who bought at the peak, believing the postcard would never change. If this investigation was worth your time, like the video, share it with someone who genuinely needs to see it, and subscribe for the next deep dive into markets nobody else is covering honestly. Comment below which town on this list shocked you most, and where should we investigate next? Whatever you answer, remember this the next time someone tells you Colorado real estate only ever goes up, because right now, from Silverthorne to Aspen, every single number says otherwise.